yeah. So, hey, I'm Bjartek, and I'm gonna demo something about metadata. So, for those of you who are not familiar, this is the issue. So it's issue 9. It's ancient. It's like from 2020 April or something. So it's just they want a better standard for metadata on Flow, and the discussion has been going on for ages, and it's going on and on. So I kind of have made several suggestions, and my latest suggestion is actually kind of a feature complete, I think, and it's actually pretty nice. So the code I'm going to show you is oh sorry, is that this URL. This is my Git repo, and it's in a branch called generic NFT. In order to run this, you currently require BlueSign's patch of cadence that involves a feature that me and Bastian spec'd out to support blocks in interfaces. So as you see here, this is an interface, but this method has a block of code. So this is not allowed in the current cadence, but with the patch that Dennis or BlueSign made, it is possible to do this. So right now you need this patch in order to do this. So in the README of this branch, there are instructions on how you can get this running. So what are the new methods? So these 3 methods are the methods that I propose to add to the NFT standard. And the nice thing, since these have default blocks, they won't break any existing NFTs. So you can upgrade this contract. Adding methods is allowed when upgrading contracts. Adding fields are not allowed. That's why this is not a field, for instance, because it won't be allowed. So you can basically figure out the name any way you like. So I have tested this and confirmed that it won't break like Top Shot and Chain Monsters and Versus and all of the NFT contracts that I could find basically on mainnet. That they will work just fine with this fix. So in order to have them here in the interface, the specification also will need to have them down here in the NFT resource. But that really doesn't matter at all. So what are these methods? Why these methods? Well, the first one is name, and strictly it's not needed, but it's a convenience to always get the name of an NFT, right? But you really don't need it here for what I'm going to show you today. So these 2 methods are what enables a really powerful pattern. So for those of you who are familiar with the web, this is basically content negotiation. So I've called it schemas and not content type as you do on the web, but it's really the same thing. So get schemas will return all the schemas that this NFT supports, and resolve schema will resolve one of them and return any struct. So you can return a struct, a dictionary, a map, a string, nil, whatever you want that adheres to this bottom type. Okay, so I made an example in this repo, a little generic NFT project just to test this out. And what this does is basically it contains a map of schemas to resolutions, and it just resolves them. So it's just for convenience, just to show you guys some demo. So if you go in here, I have a standard emulator running, and I have run one transaction that mints 4 NFTs for me here. So there are 4 NFTs that are minted way up here. They're minted here. 3 NFTs and 1 generic NFT, 1 shared NFT. Okay, so what does this enable us to do? So I've written this small Go utility that parses this string. So this string is basically what you're gonna need to look at. All the other things are just boilerplate. So this is the address of the service account. So if I just enter in that, it will then discover a collection. So this is an NFT collection. But how can you discover collections? There are no enumerations of collections. There's an issue to add enumeration to collections, but it's not there. So what I have done is basically I have added integration with the Versus profile. So the versus profile project has a collections, a dictionary where you can add, an array where you can add collections when you create your profile. So I use this to discover the types. When there's enumeration of collections, we can use that instead. So this basically says all of the entries here that are of this exact type, non-fungible token collection public, all of them will be returned here. So if I had more, you can see that I have more, right? Okay. So let's just then dig into this collection. So okay, I have 3 NFTs in this collection, 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, this pattern enables you to you don't have to know anything beforehand. The only thing you need to know is the user's address, and once you know their address, you can discover all of their data. And I think that is really key because it's really powerful. Right now, this is almost impossible. On Flow, you need to know every detail to cast everything. But with this, it's the total opposite. Everything is basically possible. So the NFT 1, it has these schemas here.
So I have a quick question. So the 1, 2, and 3, I might have missed. Is that what do the actual numbers represent?
This is the NFT ID, the owned ID, the ID of the NFT.
Oh, okay. So that's just in a single collection.
So it's basically this.
Okay.
It's this ID.
Yeah.
So in the collection, owned NFT is this one. We basically this ID. So get IDs.
Yeah,
I
that makes sense.
just run get IDs to get these IDs. So this one.
Okay.
That's the method I use in here to resolve those.
So you're saying that you're with this, you can find any NFT collection in an account storage?
So I can't find the collections. In order to find the collections, I use this, the versus profile, to discover the collections. So you yourself has to say, I want people to view these NFTs. So I want to show the guys, the world, that I have these NFTs, right? And they need to be typed in exactly this interface to support this interface. I mean, if you had enumerations, we could do that. Basically, there's lots of things. This is just like the top of the iceberg, really. Okay.
Is the collection name does that correspond to the storage path of the collection?
It doesn't have to. So this name, the name of the collection, it doesn't have to correspond to anything because this is a capability.
Oh, okay.
So you basically, I can show you here if you go to create profile. This is basically how you create a versus profile. So you create a profile with a username and description. If you want to allow storing followers to be stored in your account, and some tags that you attach to your profile, and then you can add a wallet. And down here, I don't here. I don't do it here. Let me find this one here. Here it is. So here I will create the down here I borrow the profile and I add a collection to the profile. That is a capability here. So this is public NFT, but it's this name that I discover on. So it doesn't have to match at all. This is, but if you use so if you want to use enumeration, it has to match. Then it has to match what's here in public, right? But since we don't have that yet, I just did this. But you could basically do it any way you like.
I see. So it all goes through the profile resource.
Right now it does, but if we had enumerations, you don't need the profile if you don't want to use it.
Got it. Yeah.
But why don't you want to use the profile? I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see why not.
So these are the schemas that this support. So I have some mix-in and shared things that I've added to my NFT, so you can mix in data and share data, but that's really just the implementation detail. But here I can go and say editions, and it will resolve that this is edition 1 to 3, 1 of 3. So if I go to number 2, we can guess that this is 2 of 3. Yeah, shiny. And 3 of 3. So now I can basically, you can imagine if this was a web interface, right? You could have a block explorer, like James could do this for flow of users, and or for FlowScan or whatever, where you can just, this is your collection, this is the IDs, this is the content types. And if you then match one of these to an HTML fragment, then you basically have a resource explorer of Flow, the entire thing, if you want to. If people of course needs to implement the methods. So I actually have oh, sorry, where are you here? For versus, I have actually done this. So for versus, this is the code I needed to write. This code. If I write this code for versus and adds that in my next update after this, then versus will support getting the shared image URL, the metadata, the royalties, the creative work, and the additions. So as long as we can agree on the naming of these, how you name them, that is pretty hard to do, but as long as we can do that, then we will have a really powerful thing. So, for instance, I was thinking, instead of this just being a metadata, it could maybe be the address and name of the contract, right? So right now, sorry. Right now, these are the structs that I map to, right? So this is the any struct that's in here. So maybe this would be like A and ID and NFT meta. Maybe this should be the kind of the name of this capability. I don't know. We just need to agree on what it is. So right now my kind of standard is that as long as it starts with metadata, it's one of the things that are in this file, in this class. Yeah, so I added some other stuff in here, like selling things from the collection and royalties. And by the way, for those of you who are, this is VI with Cadence, and Cian has made this nice improvement that adds a lot better highlighting and of the code recently. So it's pretty cool if you don't want to use VS Code or can use VS Code. So that's it basically. That's what I was going to show. So if you have any questions, then fire away.
I actually have one. I remember Bjartek said this would actually solve the problem for not deploying, like multiple contracts for some generic NFTs, and people will be, be able to do it like more easily.
Yeah, so that is not basic. That is not related to. Sorry, I'm just moving out. So that is it's not related to the standard, but it's related to this specific repository. So this specific generic NFT repository actually allows you to create, like, you can create basically your own minter. So it's really easy for me here I can create any NFT I like. So this NFT here, it has editions, but this is why it has editions. If I don't want to edition something, so I can just delete this schema, and it won't have editions, right? So did that answer your question, Max?
I mean, you can create a minter which will mint those NFTs with specifically designed like schemas.
Yeah, so if you see up here, here I create a minter. So I own the admin account, so I create a minter, and this minter can basically mint whatever you like. So you can mint art, you can mint music, whatever you like. You can add all the metadata you want to it.
Right.
But if you see here, it has some like extra schemas that I have added, so you can see who is the minter. So this is the profile, or this is the minter, and this is the capability to do the profiles of both the platform that has created this minter and the minter itself. So it allows you to. It's pretty cool if you. It's not done yet, but it's getting there. But it will allow the owner of the platform to. I can kind of sell a minter to somebody, and they can start mint art using that platform, right? So they don't have to create their own contract if they want to mint simple NFTs. They don't have any extra fields or extra functions to them. They just have data, right?
I guess my biggest worry is that you would be able to create more minters for some specific NFTs, and this seems like sort of like security issue. So like, yes, you provide some artists with the ability to create like something related to their artwork, but it doesn't really stop you from doing it again for someone else.
No, you don't. But imagine for instance that I create a minter for a Kaitsa, for instance. Then this would say a Kaitsa. So this is a Kaitsa that has minted something, and then Han comes along and he wants his own. So then I can create one for Han as well. But it will always be possible to see who the owner, who the minter is, right?
Does this information will be preserved in the NFT as well?
Yes.
I mean, like,
yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can't override it. So it's provided in the. So when I create a minter, I hard code this, so you can't overwrite it. So it's always stored in any NFT that is created.
Right.
Because the problem right now with just creating if you create a minter and expose that to the mainnet, then anybody can mint art, right? So you can't basically do that if you want to have scarcity. But this kind of, since it's the same profile, or shared storefront, if you like, this is what's gonna enable you to keep your scarcity. But this is not the standard. This is just something I made on top of the standard. But it kind of shows what you can do with it. It supports listing items for sale and buying them and mixing in data and sharing data. So it's starting to be pretty feature complete. So we'll see what happens with it.
Nice one. Thank you for showing it to us.
Any more questions? Okay. Then I will turn off the screen.
I may have missed it at the beginning, but is there a repository with or any code that we can go and look at?
Yeah. So if you go to github.com/Bjartek and go to flow nfmt, and there's a branch called generic NFT. I can post it in the office hours channel, but maybe that's the easiest thing. So there it is with the branch and all. But as I said, since you missed the start, you need to patch both Flow CLI and Cadence in order for the demo to work. So you need to check out both and use the modified Go mod file and patch both of them in order to get it to work right now.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
But if you need help on it, just ping me and I can help you set it up if you want to play around yourself.
Great.
Thank you for the demo.
Yeah, no problem.
I especially like the fact that the metadata can be composed in a way that feels like the right level of granularity, like the fact that there'd be sort of just a convention for images, or I like the idea that any single NFT might implement like 4 or 5 of those metadata types, right? Rather than having like one giant metadata object that every NFT has to implement. I really like that property of it. I think it keeps it extensible too, where you could imagine like maybe some projects have their own custom metadata specs. It would be like metadata / verses, right? If they needed to, but without it being like a totally custom standard.
Yeah, so that is kind of the thing that's, as I said, that's the most important thing to agree upon. That is, how do you map a schema name to a struct or whatever you like? Because you could like put in here raw JSON as a string if you wanted to, but then you should probably prefix that with JSON, right? Just say this is JSON, and maybe what it is in a JSON or whatever. Or you could have a URL that you could resolve to something that will give you something. Then you should probably prefix that with URL and maybe said, this is a URL that returns JSON, or maybe this is a URL that even returns HTML that you can put right into your web page if you like. I mean, you have standards like microformats and everything like that where you can return things. There are a lot of different schema specifications out there, but I just try to start really simple and just use structs because that's what was most natural to me. But we kind of need to agree on how to name them, and I'm open to things, but at the same time I know what I want to use it for, so I know things that I want to do with it. So
yeah, that's like mapping the string to a concrete type is the most brittle part of the whole thing, right?
yeah, and also if you want to map, let's say that somebody wants to create like a library that maps a schema type to an HTML fragment or like a React component even. That could also be possible, right? Because it will be very easy to do. And it will enable you to have really nice composability in your front end things and things like that if you want to.
That's cool.
So I'm kind of wondering, what do people think? Is it, as I did a demo to you internally, or Peter and some other people earlier this week, and I'm just thinking, what do people think? Is it the right way? Do you want something more complex? How hard would it be to get the method added, for instance, to the standard?
I feel like the person with the most interesting opinion would probably be Josh, because he looks at people's contracts quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not in this room.
No, he's in Cadence.
So I maybe hop in there if you wanted, unless there's somebody here that wants to continue the discussion. I think that's probably a good place.
Yeah, I can do that. I can hop in there and I can talk to Josh or talk to Josh later. That's a good idea, because for me it's really, so I know that Bastian needs to look at the cadence patch that Bluesign made, and then I need to. So my 2 missing points is basically getting that patch in, and that's happening. But then also I need to make sure that the methods can be added to the NFT standard to kind of drive the proposal further.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to talk more too.
Yeah, sure.
But I'll DM you. We want to set up a little kind of like a focus group to get all the. There are definitely people out there who care about this.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know the particulars of any enterprise that are creating things on Flow, but I know there are many that we don't know about. And you don't have to say, it's totally fine, but I know there are many.
It's no secret.
And basically, in my eyes, we all need this. I mean, imagine if OpenSea could have support for something like this. And what about Vive? I mean, Daniel is not here, but we could probably talk to him as well. So having him join the focus group would also be pretty nice. So we can get Vive to support this as well. So because I know right now that Vive has to hard code a lot of things to sell different NFTs, and it's a pretty. I looked at the contracts. I know there's a lot of work they need to do to support this for their platform, and it will be a lot easier for them as well to support it, even if they don't want to use the my generic NFT. They should probably support selling my generic NFTs, right?
Yeah.
As long
Same
as
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that applies for any marketplace, and
Yeah,
also Rocco, which is showing
Yeah,
them in there.
and also the NFT storefront that you guys have made. So right now you have your own royalty thing inside that, as same as Versus. It has its own royalty thing, but this standard really basically it says that in one of the contracts in here, there's like a separate royalty thing that is kind of I propose as a standard that has royalties both. It's both a fixed sum or a percentage sum, and it can be different tokens as well. So I don't know. I just want people to agree and people to start composing and using each other's stuff, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
show us what they can do. And then you would actually have like some valuable like experiments, like some crazy stuff that people usually fiddle with.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks.